I'm Caden Love,
And I'm Seema Love, his wife.
and we are Love and Lore, taking dark fantasy and light fantasy and everything in between. And often happens that while you're reading a lot, you might get into a reading slump, a period where you just don't want to read anything. Every story feels the same. So we're going to do our best to give you some recommendations to help get you back into reading, whether or not you're feeling that way, or if you've had a long break and you're trying to find something to give you motivation to read.
And while Caden has a lot of good recommendations for fantasy and sci-fi readers, I will be your girl today for everyone who grew up reading dystopian, romance, or anything like that.
So we'll start off with one of my most recent reads, and this one does involve a good romance, enemies to lovers trope if you like that. And that is going to be Megan E. O'Keefe's The Blighted Stars. I was thoroughly surprised with this one. It was a pretty quick read for me. So this book focuses on humans that are going through and extracting resources from planets with fungi. So we focus on that while we have opposition, and there is one character against another who is playing as a mole in the system. Just know that you have some really fun tools in this, such as fungal horror or human bodies that die and are reprinted, as well as that great romance that you can expect later on.
And my first recommendation will be for those who grew up reading dystopian, like Hunger Games, and specifically maybe liking teenage romance kind of books. If you haven't been reading for a while and you want to come back, the Selection series will give you everything you wanted. It is not a masterpiece. The book series seems a little silly at times, but when you need something easy just to get back into reading, it is perfect. It gives you all the romance you could ever want. It gives you some dystopian. The quick pitch for Selection series is: imagine a world that has survived World War III and America is now a monarchy. And how the royal family finds marriage partner for their heirs is that they announce this selection, which is basically a nationwide bachelor where eligible ladies compete for the heart of the heir. Besides from the romantic plot, there's also some political intrigue happening in the background. So if you like watching Bachelor, for sure give this book series a try. And the series is actually pretty long. I think the original series is 3 books long, and then there are a couple of others you can read if you really want more. But they're such an easy read, and you can just fly through them and be hooked, and this way you can have a really enjoyable segue into reading more.
And like Seema said, sometimes it's really hard to just get back into reading. So if you find yourself not wanting to jump right into novels and you haven't touched manga, please do so. Some of the greatest stories I have ever read are in manga. And if you're not wanting something that can be occasionally goofy like One Piece or Full Metal Alchemist, I highly recommend checking out Monster by Naoki Urasawa. He is one of my favorite writers of all time, and I feel like this is probably his most popular, and that is for a very good reason. If you love crime thrillers, psychological thrillers, this is the book for you. I read the entire series in just a little over a month. The premise here is we have a man named Dr. Tenma who is a very, very good neurosurgeon, and he performs a surgery on a young boy that later turns out to become a serial killer. And all the moral implications that come with this are just insane. Wonderful puzzles, conspiracy theories. It has everything you could ever want from a perfect thriller. And unlike a lot of serial killer dramas that just make you feel kind of gross on the inside, even though it's thrilling, I love this one so much because Dr. Tenma's character is someone you really admire. He makes very tough decisions, but you just look at him as such a great person despite some of the trials he goes through.
Next book I'm going to recommend is for lovers of more classical books, maybe mystery books, and it's going to be Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This book is, I think, considered a classic. It was written in the 19th century. In this book, we follow the main character, a girl whose name is never revealed in the whole book. Rebecca is not the name of the main character. Rebecca is the name of dead ex-wife of the love interest. And as our main character gets married and moves into this house, she finds out that the ex-wife is still kind of haunting every place and every person that surrounds her. And we get to find out more about who she was, how she died. That book is so gripping. It is so easy to get into and just get hooked right away, especially if you're an appreciator of good vibes in a book. That book has like perfect, slightly spooky vibe that is perfect for October. So if you're looking for a good book around Halloween, give this one a try for sure.
And I always thought that's super interesting when the author uses that trope, the unnamed narrator, the main character. Murakami uses that a lot in some of his books. And one of my favorite authors that really makes bold choices like that is David Mitchell. Most people probably know him from Cloud Atlas. I enjoyed Cloud Atlas, but I loved The Bone Clocks way more. This book just feels like such a wonderful journey. It touches on magic realism, so most of the story feels like it's very normal, set in our world, but there are touches of magic that connect in the end. What we have here is a selection of stories that progress throughout history until the modern day, where they are all connected by one big thing in the end. It is such a fun thrill ride, and if you're looking for a book where each section feels like a fresh take on the world, and where you just learn to grow close to this diverse cast of characters, definitely check out The Bone Clocks, and I feel like this is one that is so much better going into blind just to see what a masterpiece it truly is.
The next book is a cyberpunk book. So if you've enjoyed sci-fi books in the past, you should give a try to Toothsucker by this guy. And I'm not recommending it just because my husband wrote this. This book had me so gripped with specifically word building. And let me pitch you the world building. Imagine it's like capitalism on steroids. Pharmaceuticals, entertainment, whoever has the most money has the most political influence too. And in this messy world, pharmaceuticals have gone haywire and people are dying from dissolving bones, and pharmaceutical companies are experimenting with weird stuff that, if implanted, helps with dissolving bones, but has a side effect of you having to eat teeth. And this is what happens to the main character, who's, by the way, is a refugee, because Caden was inspired by a story of my friends who are refugees. And I guess Caden can tell you a little bit more about this book.
Yeah, a lot of it came from the desire to write a vampire book, so I took that with a twist of tooth-eating vampires. So there's a lot of fun that goes on with there. It is a book rich with social commentary, and a lot of that based on the struggles that Seema's friends have faced. But if you love cyberpunk books, you gotta check this out. It's very much inspired by cyberpunk edgerunners, and if you want kind of a feeling like Blade Runner, you will love this book. The next one that I want to show you is Discovery by J.A.J. Minton. This family also runs the Talking Story YouTube channel. This one felt a lot like me, like a David Mitchell book, meaning that it was written with multiple prose points, multiple perspectives that each feels very, very unique. This is a masterpiece of a book. It felt like Cloud Atlas, where you have a set of stories that combine and work together, but the backdrop is a big Lovecraftian horror. It is so, so interesting, and I cannot wait for the next book. This is one that you need to just jump into right away. It was a fairly quick read compared to big epic fantasy books that I'm used to, so you need to get a hold of this before the whole world knows about it.
And the last recommendation of the day I'm gonna give you is the one I'm reading right now, so I'm so passionate about it. If you read Twilight as a teenager, let's say, and you're craving that feeling again, you will find that feeling in The Raven Boys. This book is a perfect combination of slightly supernatural, moody feel, and a little bit of romance. The main character, Blue, is born in a family of fortune tellers, but herself, she doesn't have any powers. And since childhood, she's told this prophecy that she will kiss her true love and he will die. And then she meets this group of boys who are looking for mysterious ley lines, and they start a friendship and keep hunting for these ley lines. And there are a lot of interesting secrets converging together while they're getting this enjoyable vibe that reminds you of Twilight, and a little bit of romance sprinkled in there. It is just so good.
And recently I've been reading a little more than Seema, so I have 3 more books to share, and these are ones you do not want to miss. First, we will go ahead and talk about one of the big hot names in the market, and that is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinneman. You might not recognize this cover because this was the independently published cover. Now it is traditionally published, and the whole world knows about it. Why I am talking about this is because if you do this on audiobook, you are going to have such an enjoyable experience. This is the best audiobook I've ever listened to. The series is long, but you just want more and more and more of it. A lot of people might be hesitant just by looking at how bizarre it sounds when they hear the word lit RPG or Dungeon Crawler Carl. It doesn't sound to be the most serious book, but let me tell you, this has comedy, plot, and everything you could ask for in just a brilliantly enjoyable book. If you know nothing about this, imagine the world has collapsed and is turned into a game show for aliens where Carl and his friends run through certain levels, kind of like in a video game where they're just trying to survive. There's plenty of comedy, plenty of twists, and I cannot wait for the next book because 7 books isn't enough, and I'm not sure that 20 books would be enough. It is just one of the most brilliant series ever, and I can't wait to go back and re-listen to it one day when my memory fails me. Next, let's talk about my current read, The Failures by Benjamin Lyer. This one is so refreshing. If you are finding yourself sick of repetitive stories, the same thing being told with the same tropes, you need to check out The Failures. The best comparisons I have to this are The Dark Tower and Bloodborne. The Dark Tower by Stephen King is a masterpiece, and if you haven't read it, it is a combination of everything. You have horror, fantasy, sci-fi, and western, and that's kind of how this feels. You never know what is going to happen next, but the atmosphere is dark, dreary, and it feels almost like I'm playing Bloodborne, but with a little bit of humor like Joe Abercrombie has. I cannot wait to see where this book goes, and this is already working its way to the top reads of this year. And lastly, I want to talk about one of my favorite books this year, and if I were to predict any book that I've read this year to become a New York Times bestseller and the next big movie, TV series, whatever, it would be Artificial Wisdom by Thomas R. Weaver. If you have read anything by Blake Crouch, such as Dark Matter, Recursion, it feels like that. This is a brilliant sci-fi thriller, and I can confidently say this is the best murder mystery I have ever read. What is this about? This is set in the future, 2050, where the world is facing an intense climate crisis filled with propaganda. Is this happening? Is this not? And so the world has decided to come and confront this with a world election for a single leader to help combat this. That is between a former US president and an artificial intelligence. This is so charged full of topics that are so relevant today. And like I said, once you get into that story, there is a brilliant murder mystery. The last 100 pages was twist after twist after twist, and I cannot wait to see where this series goes next because the author is currently working on book 2. This releases in the United States in September, so make sure you go ahead and add this to your list. It was originally indie published, but it is currently coming out by Penguin Random House, and like I said, this book is going to be the next big thing, so remember that I told you that because you do not want to miss the hype around this.
Well, thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll give these books a try because they're all amazing and will have you hooked. And if you have any other recommendations of books that are so enjoyable that will make you a reader, please share them in the comments and see you in the next video.